Hi guys, Janica here from Multispective, and I'm here to share with you a new episode where I interview Inaya, a beautiful young individual who talks in great detail about the multifaceted journey that she herself had been through. She herself was a pro tennis player and in her younger years, and in that time she'd found a very spiritual, deep sense of self in which she decided to leave that field and pursue her spirituality. There were so many different aspects of her life that sort of came together in helping her find that sense of self, and she talks in great detail about this concept of divine duality. It is a beautiful interplay between the opposing or the juxtaposing things that exist within us and around us and how they play and they bounce around between each other. And it's a beautiful metaphor that she gives even with tennis to help us to understand this concept a little bit better. Within her own life, at a very young age, around 26, she had lost her best friend to suicide because of this battle with schizophrenia that she was having, this internal battle that decided to end her life. And that was another part of this inner spirituality that sort of came about within her, that sense of looking deep within. She also, later on in her life, with her husband, opened up a refugee camp, and she talks about that in great detail, about the experience working very, very closely with refugees around the world, the communication barriers, the cultural barriers, and how she was able to open up her world to the various different kinds of individuals in vulnerable situations. Again, brings in the concept of divine duality within it as well, along with her own personal journey, which has been very, very up and down. She shares a little bit about spirituality, energy healing, finding your sense of self and purpose, and then how divine duality can be used to better ourselves. So stay tuned, listen in, don't forget to subscribe and drop a comment below letting us know what you think, because everything that you tell us is feedback for us to do a better job for you. Thank you. Enjoy the episode. Inaya, welcome to Multispective. I am so excited to have you here with us and can't wait to share your story on air with our audience.
Thank you so much, Janica. I'm so adored to be here and so happy to share. And
yeah. I can really see this energy healing sort of like vibe in you, and I'm pretty sure our listeners that are watching this episode will get that same sort of vibe. So we're going to delve right into the whole energy healing and sort of the journey that got you to where you are today. But perhaps, you can start off by introducing yourself, telling us a little bit about your background.
Okay, my background is like multiverse because I'm 62, but I started my life as a career already as a 14 as a tennis coach, and I have 30 years of tennis coaching and also touring a little bit with it. And directly after I passed the 12 original years of school, I day one had my own school of, relearn what's not me. And I started to really just full time together with tennis, being an artist.
Wow.
And my subject is divine duality, and it's really what I have used all the time, how two subjects or spectras can interplay with each other to accelerate the growth of the other and the consciousness within us about it. So that's what I want to share. But after some years or lots of traveling, I had a hidden address after my best friend. She became schizophrenic and had suicide, and as I think people does, really accused myself for it. So I gone down into really a black hole, and there I met a man that I felt that I can not destroy him because he's all already so destroyed. I got a daughter with him. I lived in Argentina in 1 year, and when I was strong enough, I got strong enough by becoming a chef in a tennis court and had an exhibition in the highest, best art hall. So the confidence made me strong enough to shift my identity to say, no, I should not be here, and be able to go away from that relationship with my daughter and zero my life with name, economy, everything. Start from zero. And then I was 32. And when no, 30, I was 30. And I continued to be an artist during the time with Hidden Address. And with time, I came to work with a construction of a city as an artist, and understood that, well, they just wanted, they didn't want anything to happen. They just wanted me to make it a little bit more beautiful. But I wanted it to be a place for people to meet and people to use their interplay with each other. Nothing happened. So I start to work with instead I educate myself and took studies to work in the corporate field as a consultant.
Wow.
So I worked there
Okay.
for 15 years. And during that time, I also got into several boards professionally, and had 3 years of in a small team building up entrepreneurship in a university. And
Wow.
I had a refugee camp for 4 years, also interplaying in the time. During the time, it came deeper and deeper into the knowledge of the behind the scenes,
Mm-hmm.
and what is really entrepreneurship, what is happening, and what's just unfolding by our beingness. And I started to write books, and I started to channel books. And the last 8 years, I've been working with healing, as I also healed myself only with sound and minerals. So I had my own guinea pig travel.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. There's a lot, a lot, a lot. You've basically given us your entire story in a nutshell, listeners. There you go. The whole story is there. Now we're going to start to sort of unravel this a little bit and unpack this in bits and pieces.
Yeah.
I'm very curious though. You started off as a tennis coach. Can you just expand a little bit more on that? What got you into sports? What got you into tennis in particular? And what was the profound sort of understandings you got from tennis?
And I started as a first half a year. It was like my father said, it's like I didn't know where to hold the racket in the front or in the back. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then it was like a eureka. And all my life is like a meta. When I understand the metaphor of it, it's just there. So I was the best in the club at once when I just understood tennis. I
Mm.
always loved it, and then it's like this sport holds everything. It holds totally awareness in the strike when you strike it, and then totally wide angle seeing of the movement of the court, of everything, and your body moves with it, and you have totally strategy how to take your different steps into it. And after coaching, first I was headhunted by a coach to be a tennis coach, and then the more I do it, I see that it's personal development that is occurring when I do it, because I see exactly the movement they have naturally, and just use them to come
Mm.
into their next level, both
That's
as
really
person and
awesome.
as players.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that personal development side? What were some of the things you learned about yourself during that journey of your life?
Well, in the same time, I worked as an artist. I didn't
Okay.
have any art studies, but during the time, I also had lots of work, as first as illustrator, and then as making clothes for artists, clothes, and I had several exhibitions. One time where I should do some drawings for a showroom. I had to make a fur, to make it exactly as it looked, and I understood more and more that I have to be the fur to be able to make it realized.
Right.
And in the same time, I understood from the tennis that if I'm embody being the strike in the tennis, my muscles will simultaneously work for the strike. So it's
Wow.
an interplay with duality. It's
Yeah.
two fields, and their interplay made new experiences available, and more excitement about life, about
Yeah.
creation. Yeah.
I wonder whether this is what makes a person a master or a champion in a sport or in any kind of activity, anyone that ever joins the Olympics or ends up in a really really high sort of like level in any kind of sport, whether they are channeling that sport in the way that you're describing it right now, which is being it
Yeah.
in order to play it in a sense.
Yeah. I think it's two big things to enter. First, of embodying it, and the next to master the level of friction. To have no friction and all power into the activity. It's when you see a person who runs 60 meter or 100 meter, what they run, you can see that flopping face and
Yeah.
all their muscles,
Yeah.
and they're so fast because they have no contradiction to their movements.
Yeah. In a way,
Yeah.
what I'm getting from this, and even life in general, because this is
Mm.
a very philosophical kind of idea, right? In a sense,
Yeah.
is just that flow state, right? That
Mm.
state of being in that trance where you no
Mm.
longer you let go of your ego self and you let go of what your muscles or your mind tells you it should be.
Mm.
Dance is a beautiful example of this as well, because when you're first introduced to a type of dance, you're like, okay, my body is not used to kind of moving in that way, so you're rigid, you're off beat, you're off the rhythm. But then when you and maybe it starts off with developing the skills. Yeah, once you kind of understand what are the skills needed, then you can start to kind of really assimilate with that kind of style, and your body kind of moves more naturally in that state, almost to the point where even when you're walking, if you're learning ballet, it almost, you start tiptoeing around, because that just, you start prancing around in your general day. And I have to say this, even as a podcaster, my whole language has changed over the last few years of podcasting, because I went from speaking how I speak to with my friends to learning the styles of podcasting. And then now that is me. I am it. It is
Mm.
me. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds so beautiful and right. And I think everybody one has their way coming there, because we are different, much in our brain and in our worldview and everything. But it's absolutely this feeling of existence of what we are doing, that it can come when we just surrender to to it.
Yeah.
I think the most important thing is to surrender, and then we see. If we can
Mm.
surrender our worldview, our identity, anything that we thought about it, the rhythm comes in, the system comes in, everything comes in, because we have the intention to do it.
I love that. So what made you then decide to leave this field and enter the corporate world?
The thing is that I never left. I had the three in the same time: as an artist, as hidden address, that is a really occupation in itself. Yeah, I mean, there were so many trials to learn society. It taught me society that I didn't know. So it's such a teaching in being in that space. And I was with the art, and I entered the field of cooperative field. And then I had income from my tennis. I had my art and exhibitions, and I could just, instead of being full time in school to learn it, I took half time studies, and lots of it was in my own option of time.
Hmm.
and uh, and I start at once to just make up works for myself. So as an entrepreneur, so I started day one with starting to make concepts and different things, and as also with the art and the tennis, they able to communicate with people in the new field, because they had some relation to any of my fields, and
Right.
also to develop them. So it's not that I leave one and come to the other. It's more divine duality, how two counterparts can interplay and make the other alive.
Wow, that's really cool. So you were basically like making connections from one to another and in a way, kind of flowing between and through a variety of different sort of things. Can you tell our listeners a little bit more about divine duality? Because I know you're going to be speaking about this and you'll be bringing it up along the way. So I'd want them to sort of get a bit more of a stronger understanding of what that is.
Philosophy, you can see that we have been taught that we are split from source, that we the Garden of Eden, and we became sinners, and we have to understand that the God is outside of us and we must please him, because it's a him in that word. And it's mirrored in all our society, because we have had school that didn't teach us to listen, but to listen, to teach us realities from outside. And our brain is filled with lots of information that we could have in a more fresh and more straight, accurate way for our personality, with learning to use our brain and heart and body system. So divine duality is, I see it as a Big Bang or a God or whatever we say about, tell it or name it. It's an expansion from oneness, and it comes from the yin yang energy, as the blackness was the first energy of everything, evolving consciousness. And when consciousness evolved, it started wanted to penetrate the blackness that is full potential, and to make, to penetrate their ideas into reality. And there we have a yin yang field around us, totally everywhere, that make all our thoughts, our feelings, our activities into reality, because we live in the material world, in a physical world. So in my teaching about divine duality, we can start to interplay with two opposites of any time, any kind. For example, we can see what we blame ourselves for, and take in the other counterpart the forgiveness, and we can just experience how part by part of what we hold in our body that makes friction in our body start to resolve, and we get released. So it's one way of using duality, but also all the 7 emotions that we humans can have are there to elevate shadows to light. So we can, instead of saying that we don't want duality in the world, I will say that new paradigm is divine duality, where we use the shadow for the light, where we can see how we can interplay between counterparts and elevate consciousness and life force in so simple ways.
Wow. Very technical, very deep, but also I can see so much beauty in what you're saying. So what I'm understanding as well is sort of like using the emotions that exist within us in a way that helps us to find sort of more of a enlightenment, not enlightenment per se, but to find our path using our emotions for balance, that yin and yang that you're talking about, and actually kind of embracing that side of the human existence in order to be able to see ourselves in the full realm of what we can potentially be.
Yes. And again, this way of surrender to a new world. That's why I often use meditation, because meditation makes our mind, body, and heart integrated, and there we can take in our newer pathways start to open up if we just have clear water also. But what the surrender is so interesting, because when we surrender to make life force go through us without control, it's actually amplify our individuality instead of the opposite. If we get loose of what we think that we are, and let vital force run through us with source consciousness, our individuality are born and accelerated, and our piece in the puzzle in the world will take place.
How did this come about to you?
Well, you see that I have all the range of experience in my life.
Yeah.
So I think that I've been like sniffing in all the corners to understand life on Earth,
Yeah, exactly.
and of course the healing journey of myself from being in the deepest black hole, and to understand how to up level part bit by bit and totally be in the present, and not feeling that I want to be somewhere else, but feeling the pure light in next step, that it's I just uh, like view and vision what I saw in front of me and was in awe of the beauty. So it's like I had the suffer and the beauty in the same time, and it's up leveled me bit by bit to understand life beyond the scene.
Do you think that it took having a bit of an artistic and creative side of your brain being much stronger for you to be able to see that? Do you think a person who's very logical and very scientific, do you think that they can have that ability to see the world in this way?
I think that the interplay that I had was very, very good for coming to experience it and teach it to others. And because I have been through it, it's so much easier for me to enter it from my anyone in their circumstance. But absolutely, I feel, using my the art is being in metaphor, it's being in the magic. When you sculpture a head, when you are sculpting a bit in the side of the head, you must see the backside, otherwise the proportions will be wrong. So it start to be a vision beyond, and of course also tennis is physics. So because I was a teacher and a leader all the time, I had to use my conscious mind combining with my body. And so I think it's very important that we have in the school or wherever we are, that in life, that we combine some physical and with our all work with so much in our left brain consciousness. And even though we don't combine them yet, to have them and start to make them live in ourselves, to have some physicality, and to just try experience beauty. You don't have to be an artist, but maybe to listen to music, to amuse different this right hand side of our hemisphere in the brain. It's open up for it. And also in my retreats, I have so much of this interplay with the word view, and starting to renew our sensory system to be able to create our lives.
That's really interesting. Can you tell me a little bit more about your friend? When your friend was diagnosed with schizophrenia, the effect that it had on you, and again, the new revelations that you had during that period?
Yeah, absolutely. I was 26 and we had traveled the world. We have been interrailing for 5 years, 5 summers, and, being tight since we were 8 years. And because she and I start to know each other when we were 8 years, we built our houses together. It's like one brick of my house came from a brick from her house.
Wow.
We started when people are very close to each other, they are interrelated in a lot of ways. And when she started first with being depressive, and it came deeper into into schizophrenia, we didn't know that it was this sickness. But every time when she was in the level of losing her mind, of the word that we see as the sane
Yeah.
word. She called me, and I already, when I spoke to her, saw her next level of crash, or next level of not existing in this world. So her schizophrenia made itself. I have my life, and I could hold my stableness, but still I was also going in to understand the schizophrenia inside me. So it was a horrible time. And when she then made suicide in the hospital, she hanged herself with her belt. I understood that first. I was totally falling apart. I was like a wet spot in the not the human body,
Mm.
and it's like my human body just get water. And I had my birthday, 26 years birthday, 6 days later, and I knew that this is new life. I'm zero now. I have to restructure my life. And when I saw, tried to see who she really was, if I start to re-establish my view of who my friend was, because it was
Mm.
so different. And when I did it, it's like the bricks of her in me just turn away, and I got zero, because
Mm.
it's like all my house was crashing with her. I think people can relate to that. And then when you reschedule reality that is really inbuilt in you, it's like you have no stable ground any longer.
Yeah, no, that's really, really difficult. And I can sense that you are really quite an empath, because even when you were talking about like her going through this schizophrenia, it was like you were experiencing it to an extent as well, just by the mere fact that you were so close to her and around her all the time. You could see every step of that process. It's like you were learning and again, kind of getting into that state a little bit with her. So it's a very empath kind of feeling. And the fact that you really feel not only the physicality of other people, but you feel so deeply for sports, you feel so deeply for the emotions you experience, you feel
Mm.
every brick is something that really stands out to you. The fact that you felt like a drop of water in your body, it's like a very physical kind of manifestation for you. Would you say that that's helped you or hindered you in your life?
It made my life. It created my life. And creation is always an interaction with duality.
Mm.
So I love my life. I have have had so much suffer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And but what I can say about this time, first of all, my brain during the night, it made a totally genius puzzle as a zipper with different codes and different mathematic codes to make me sane and not get into the insanity. And also, during all my time, when I had all this suffer and pain inside, I also have established connection to my higher self. So it was one self that looked at the other all the time. I
Mm.
lived my life here on earth, but I wasn't without connection. So I always had, someone telling me how to heal myself, someone that's showing me, oh no, this is just, a messenger of darkness. When all the worst things happen in
Mm.
my life, I can say, okay, I see you beyond, I see the darkness beyond, and I will not participate with you. I will just see the small spot of light. It was like a decision,
Mm.
and so it's such a power coming in to help us when we are in our worst time scenarios.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How is it that with your friend, her experience of, because I guess typically when we understand schizophrenia, it's, the hearing and experiencing of an outer voice, an external voice. However, the difference is you were feeling the divine voice, you were feeling the higher power, versus what she was experiencing was very clearly schizophrenia. So can you
Yeah.
just sort of, can you tell me how the two are different, and how did you come to understand that the two experiences were not interlinking?
It's not only have visions of different other things, it's losing ableness to understand time and space.
Okay.
It's losing understanding what's tomorrow, what's tomorrow existing, what's past, tomorrow, everything. It's lose its grip. She asked me to come into her dimension, that we have been in so many dimensions before, and she wants me to come with her. And I said, "Oh no, I'm sorry. I want you to come to mine." So,
Right. Yeah.
but it's so much more than having different visions, because it's so much aggressivity in it. It's so much. It's like she told me when she was a bit, it's going up and down, the schizophrenia, and when she was a bit more better in her health, she asked me to stay away from her because she wants to kill me. She exploded before she came to the hospital. She exploded and totally half killed her parents, and teared their home apart. It was it's such a power they have. Such the people who are in this state are so much in power. All that power is out of friction in the other side of what we want.
You see, yes, I definitely agree. I see the difference. But to someone who doesn't quite understand or believe in this, would persist with the questioning of, okay, what about if you just surrendered to those voices and that power that you're experiencing in what our world has defined schizophrenia?
Mm.
But what if that is a higher voice that is inside of them that they're just surrendering to?
Well, if I start with if this is better or if it's just our way of perceive life that put them out of our society,
Yeah.
I will say that in my experience with my friend, she, it was starting with depression, and the depression is just seeing the darkness, to see only what is not light. They stop to see any light. And then you are one part of yin yang. You start to live in the pure potential that is wide and endless. Yeah. So for me, it's actually really it's not possible to be there. It's a vast space of potential, but no existence.
Right. Yeah. That makes so much sense.
Understand how all this life have occurred in just some years around me, from living in zero and with hidden address. It's we all just have to start to live in wonder of life, the wonder
Yeah.
of life, and to surrender to the reality and not fight against it, and to
Yeah.
start to embody what we love. And every step will take us into our journey.
Yeah. No, I love this because it's actually reminding me of some episodes that I've done before with energy healers, and they don't exactly explain it in this way, but a lot of the stuff they say is very synonymous with what you're saying right now. How they describe it is listening to your gut, just
Mm.
listening to that inner voice, not trying to push it away because of what media tells us or what family tells us or what society tells us. Just listening to what your body is telling you, your inner deepest part of your body is telling you. If you're feeling slightly discomfort from a certain scenario or situation, listen to it, go with it, because the more you start to be in tune with listening to yourself, that inner you,
Hmm.
the more you are going to start to be able to listen to the spirit guides that are around you, that are dropping you little
Oh
little
yes.
clues. right?
Yes,
Yeah.
and that's so true. And because we have so many have stopped to look inside and ask to listen inside. It's not so easy to start to say just listen to your gut, because our gut in the start maybe is just the fear, or
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
have to sort out what is it that my inner want to tell me. And so there are so many filters
Yeah.
around us
Yeah.
that we bit by bit need to heal, to come to see what is our subconscious, our shadow coming up, and what is the clear voice from our higher self. That's why it's so as we talked about before, to open the skills of our sensory system and our body. So even though we are totally feeling that I don't know who I am, we can start with working with neuroplasticity, the very slow things to really come to the deep sensations inside. And we can start to re-evolve ourselves with doing some dances. Dance is such a movement that is so wonderful. And tennis, of course, because it's all this dance, including the strategy.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
both. So
Yeah.
if you just start to make something that out there that is not only sitting and viewing and not bombard yourself with information from outside, but start to shed the inner knowing, you will get so much easier coming through all of this happening now in the chaos in the world.
Right. I love that.
Mm.
Can
Mm.
you give our listeners some practical sort of steps that we can do? You have talked a little bit about that. Say on a day-to-day basis, if I say today I want to start doing this, what do I need to do to get there?
Okay, I can take one. We start to make a journal. A journal, you will just write when when you do something automatic. If you're doing something, like am I choosing those clothes? Okay, so you ask yourself, okay, and then you can answer, okay, because they are proper for my job. Okay, why do I want to be proper for my job? Okay, because
Mhm.
I want to be well seen. Okay, why do I want to be that? Yeah, because I want people to listen to me. Okay, do I listen to myself?
Hmm.
For example,
Yeah.
but it's a 4-level question. Why? And always when you have something that you just do and don't think about it, it's in your automatic system, because it's your subconscious mind ruling your life instead of your self-control.
Hmm. Yeah, I really like that. And I like the
Kind of
idea
easy.
of, yeah,
Yeah.
it sounds easy, but then
Mm.
I've tried this sort of before. Sometimes it gets pretty morbid. I find myself in a place where I'm like, is that really who I am? Okay.
Yeah, but
Ouch.
but that's also very beautiful with divine duality, because then you
Yeah.
can put it in one hand. If you just first, as I do when I do it, I always breathe the vertical, because I integrate my heart, mind, and body. And if you just have your left hand with, oh, am I really this? I am judging that one. You can hold forgiveness in your other hand and put them
Mm.
together, and you will
Mm.
start to just feel that, oh, all those layers that I carry. I embrace myself.
Yeah.
Oh, I have carried all these and with no need, and now I'm free from them. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. I like that. Can you talk to me a little bit, where we are getting close to the end, but I do have a few questions. I read on your website you talked about Akashic records and sound
Yeah.
healing. Talk to me a little bit about that. And I'm pretty sure a lot of our listeners don't know anything about Akashic records. So how does that sort of play into all of the work that you
Yeah.
do? Yeah.
Okay. So I can start with we have four lower bodies. Our physical body is a manifestation of the energy that are we, and we have three invisible bodies. That is our mental body, our emotional body, and our energetic body. And so has the earth. So all materia has, with high consciousness, have these layers on earth, because it's a 3D word of physicality. And because we have this yin yang energy of interplay of creating life, it's also, if you see the black, that is pure potential, that is all that exists and have been existing. And the white is the consciousness. So it's two half of the same consciousness. And when they interplay, they start to create life. And the Akashic Records is a place in the outer area of what do you call it? The matrix of Earth, that store all information of whatever have been, and on Earth, and what is now. So everything that we have put out, every emotion, everything is stored there, but it is stored there without form. So it's like, it's just formless, endless nothingness and everything. And when we put our mind is like a laser, and we put a question or our mind into a place in the Akashic Records, it's like all these unsorted knowledge come together, and we get back the film that was created at that time that we visualize. And so people who can see it, they actually can see energetically, and they translate it into words later. But if you can think about everything, when we die, we dissolve into vastness, and into and we have a consciousness. Of course, we have endless consciousness, but it's the vastness is holding everything, but without any friction, any form. Yeah, I don't know if I could explain it more logical.
I think it's really, well, yeah. The way that I kind of see it is kind of goes back to the computer system.
Yeah.
All of the data is being stored on some drive somewhere. And it's endless amounts of data. And there's, I just envision this massive room with, storage spaces everywhere. And it's, you put in the right kind of algorithm or the right kind of question, and it will sort everything out to give you an answer.
Thank you. It's perfect. It's right? Exactly the same. Yeah. It's just a copy.
Yeah. It's like we've kind of simulated what kind of earth we live in through a system that makes sense. And I tell this to my students. I'm a teacher myself, so I tell this to my students as well. It's kind of like also the way our brain works. It's like we have little files and folders in our brain, and we've simulated that on a computer. If I need to access something, I've just got to dig a little deep, try to remember the day, or what happened on that day, or what the teacher was wearing on that day, find some little memory that triggers that answer that I'm looking for, so I can answer the question on my paper. In the same way, on a computer, you got to click into the correct folder, then into the next folder, then into the, and you're narrowing down your search until you get to that file that gives you the answer that you need. And in the same way, the Akashic Record kind of works that way too, right?
Yeah. It's exactly the same.
Yeah. No, that's crazy. That's so crazy.
It's so logical and perfect described. Yeah.
It's crazy though, because as you mentioned, there are no real words to give you a very a tangible answer. So what you are doing, channeling the Akashic Records, when your client asks you a question, you are taking a message that is not quite in the form of language, and you are making language so that it's comprehensible to your clients, right?
Yeah.
Is that something you would say sometimes you struggle with? Like, how do I put this concept, this idea? Yeah.
Actually, it's also a modality. So I can look up, like we also have like Excel or files. So I have like Excel files where I can categorize what it is, and then come to more and more the story. It's very good, because it's make me also trusting that I deliver the right answer. And the thing is also that it's so interesting that we cannot go into any others Akashic records without their permission.
Yeah.
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 Because we have our integrity everywhere, and we are our own free will, and nobody can help anyone if they don't want it. So that's also so perfect. And when working with it, it's also, it just comes what the person are well prepared to be able to hear and to energetically transform into new ways of being. Because the higher self of that person will not give out any information of healing that is not appropriate. We are
Wow.
so perfect in connection with everything. And
Yeah.
if we would heal everything at once, if I will heal a person or myself at once, I will not recognize myself, and I will not have any stable ground. So
Right.
we need to take what we are ready for,
Yeah.
or what we're not by mind, but energetically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If these Akashic records can read every tiny little detail of a person's past, not only in this life, their past previous lives, what
Yeah.
their soul and consciousness needs, is life destined, predestined?
No and yes. In my way of perceiving life, our soul have an intention with why coming to Earth and what we want to evolve. Everything on in this universe want to evolve to next stage of ourselves. And when we have this intention is really ruling our lives. So as an individual, I can't say that I have full will, but my higher self has, you
Hmm.
know. So so when I have, if I make a decision that is not from my inner knowing, but because I follow someone else, it's like I come into another lifetime or another lifeline that is outside of what I planned to do. And then there will happen things to make me come back to the to the
Right.
main energy that I should be in. So we have our ability to choose whatever we want, but we will be thrown in
Yeah. Yeah.
back to ourselves.
Wow. I mean, it's beautiful, but it's also really scary when you think about it because,
Mm.
often would lead to a person going, well, then what is that lesson? Why isn't that lesson presented itself? I mean, yes, when we look back, always hindsight is 2020, we see the patterns. We're like, why do I keep coming
Yeah.
back to the same issues? Why do I keep coming back to the same kind of toxic relationship, the same kind of abusive relationship? I had an abusive father, I had abusive boyfriend, and now abusive husband. Why do I keep coming back to that same pattern? But again, hindsight 2020, right? When you're living in it, sometimes that lesson is just so blurred. It's so hard for us
Yeah.
to see. Yeah.
Yeah, but there are one thing that is so important to understand. I feel, when I clear energy cords and every things in the Akashic records or in the energy field, what I'm doing is just ending connection with electricity. It's
Yeah.
like when I went away from my daughter's father. I was trapped home. I was, so much in danger, physically and psychically. But my first decision was to zero my energy, so he couldn't reach me. So doing it, and I cut my hair. I put brown. I took different clothes when we were in the court together, and glasses that I didn't have, and just to make me another person and energetically totally neutralized myself, and I was able to come out of the energies that I had been drawn to before by that.
Yeah.
So what I want to say with that in one way, it's like we always are healing ourselves when we end energetically a story, when we end the story. So also when we put this subconscious and put 4 questions on why, just knowing it, we start to realize, and with that, it's dissolved more or less. And when a story is dissolved, it's off. We have no connection to it any longer.
Yeah. Oh my God, so much to think about here. This is really making me do a lot of self-reflecting. You've reached the end of part 1 of Inaya's episode. Stay tuned for part 2, which we'll be uploading tomorrow. If you enjoyed the episode and would like to help support the show, please follow and subscribe. You can rate and review your feedback on any of our platforms listed in the description. I'd like to recognize our guests who are vulnerable and open to share their life experiences with us. Thank you for showing us we're human. Also, a thank you to our team who worked so hard behind the scenes to make it happen.
Chris Trzynski, Stefan Menzel.
The show would be nothing without you. I'm Jenica, host and writer of the show, and you're listening to Multispective.